Welcome to this week's video in the Bass Workshop. Today we are going to talk about one of my, probably my all-time favorite search lure as it comes to smallmouth and multi-species fishing. These last few years, paddle baits and swim baits, they've gained a lot of popularity, and I'm sure 99.9% of all smallmouth anglers, the serious anglers out there, everyone's throwing a paddle tail of some brand and some style. So what I found in the last few years is there is no better fish catcher than a Z-Man 4-inch Diezel Minnow. These 4-inch paddle tails are fish catchers on every single water body that I fish. I have no doubts that anywhere in the country that you might go to, they're going to be producing fish of all sizes and of all species. But on our Northwoods lakes, these are a favorite for smallmouths and for walleyes. A lot of colorways are available from Z-Man, as well as a lot of potential rigging options with various swim bait heads. So we're going to go through some of the colors that I favor on specific waters, as well as the different swim bait heads that you should consider for rigging these up adequately. So let's get to the head shapes and styles first. Obviously, the biggest challenge with Elastec heads is you can't use just any type of a swim bait head. The requirements for these are going to be some type of a wire keeper or just any type of a system such as this Freedom Tackle FT swim bait head, which has that double keeper system. So you're going to want something for these swim bait heads to be able to attach and lodge themselves into the Elastec material, because as you are aware, the stretchability of these is insane, and this is ultimately what makes these baits catch a lot of fish. They've got a lot of wiggle, a lot of supple action, which is certainly an aid when you're fishing early season and late season for smallies. So as you can see right here, I've got the 4-inch smelt. This is rigged up on a 3/8 ounce Freedom Tackle FT head, and you can totally see why this double keeper system is certainly an asset for this type of a swim bait head, as well as for the overall package. It has a total of 4 arms where it can easily attach itself to the Elastec material, and certainly when a fish catches it, it's not going to pull out. So this is what you're going to want as far as swim bait head is concerned. So the two favorites of mine that I've really found good for this style of bait is the Freedom Tackle FT series. You can either use a 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, or a 1/2 ounce. I use all 3 sizes depending on depth and the size of bait that I'm throwing, but more times than not, it's going to be the 4-inch length. And this right here is the Northland Slurp head. 1/4 ounce to a 1/2 ounce is what I use. One last jig style to consider also is going to be the Z-Man finesse size jig. These come in various sizes from 1/8 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce. The finesse eyes, unlike the other 2 swim bait heads that I just showed, this one actually excels far better in shallow water. It doesn't have that fast plunging sink rate like the 2 prior heads do have, but you work these on a 1/4 ounce head size, you can definitely work this bait with efficiency from the extreme shallows to depths of 5 or 10 feet, no problem. So for shallow water situations, I go to the 1/4 ounce finesse eyes, whereas in deeper situations, I can get away with a 1/4 ounce to a 1/2 ounce in the swim bait heads. I have quite a few different colorways that I really like and focus on. Again, you don't need to buy all 30 something that Z-Man offers, but you do want to at least cover the basics with different shades in order to match the hatch, and also to present it to the best type of contrast depending on the water clarity situation wherever you might fish. So I'd say the color that I do fish the most, it's the smelt pattern. I use this on literally every single lake type. Even if the lake itself doesn't have smelt or Cisco present, it'll still be able to replicate a lot of minnow species, and majority of the smallmouth fisheries that I'm on are clear bodies of water, so this is just a very good universal color. It's a favorite for smallmouths as well as for walleyes. The next color, very similar in shade but slightly darker, is the IU. This one is also very good on any type of a lake, clarity. So very good universal color. I don't have it with me also, but the deal, that one's probably a good third option for clear bodies of water. And here's the difference again between the two, IU and smelt. Next up, a lot of lakes do contain a high concentration of yellow perch forage. Two main colors in order to best replicate the hatch and to match it. It's motor oil as well as the pro yellow perch. So these two are very similar. Obviously, pro yellow perch does have shades of yellow and darker green, whereas motor oil is just very universal in color. But these two adequately represent perch forage, and this is going to be something you're going to want to focus on during the months of August into September. And then the last color is obviously one of my favorites, the new penny. It's got that copper and gold flake. So if I'm fishing rivers or flowages or darker water situations, this is the one I'm gonna go to. But another good option include also might be motor oil. Now motor oil is also very good on clear bodies of water, but it does have a higher contrast as well on rivers and in those brown water situations. So the 4-inch is definitely my go-to, but there are also going to be situations where you might want to downsize your approach. And to catch smallmouths quickly, you know, the 4-incher works very well, but there's going to be days when fish are more tight-lipped, or say, you know, the fish themselves are just incapable of taking down a full 4-inch minnow style body. So what I do is I downsize, and in order to accomplish that, I turn to the 3-inch minnows. So both baits pretty much identical. Obviously one's a 4-incher, the other's a 3-incher right here. The unrigged in my hand is the 4-incher. So long casts, these are great search baits. No wrong way of fishing them. You can work them shallow and deep depending on what jig head type you're running with. My approach with the Diezel Minnow search lures, long casts, medium to slow steady retrieves. I can work them at any depth. As a non-forward facing sonar boat and guide service, this is my ultimate fish catcher. This is my sonar. This is how I find fish with a reasonable rate and pace, and also in a timely manner. I can be on lakes that I fish often and these produce, and if by chance I'm checking out a new lake on a guide trip day, or say I'm fishing on a time limit and I want to catch fish quickly, the 3-inch minnows or the 4-inch Diezel Minnow is what I'm going to be using. So gear wise, these things work great on medium tackle, medium fast action spinning setups. I tend to run a 7-foot 6-inch St. Croix Legend Elite spinning setup, 15-pound braided mainline with a fluorocarbon leader attachment. I know guys fish much lighter, and I also run much longer rods too that are pushing 8 feet length for open water fishing applications. And then lastly, there will be days and situations if you're trophy hunting and on your hog hunts, the fish are going to want something much larger versus a 4-inch bait. And what I do then in this situation, I work the 5-inch Diezel Minnows exclusively. I've been able to get by with the supersized meal mostly on our pelagic fisheries. So smelt, that's one color, and then the disco cisco. But these things are great if you're targeting and being very selective on specimens. A 20-inch smallmouth has no problem taking down this 5-inch bait on a 3/4 ounce weight head. Besides big smallmouths, this thing is hauled in big walleyes, big pike, even muskies too. So it gets the attention of everything that swims in the lake. But the Lastec material, again, it's very stretchy, very gummy, very subtle tail kick, which is nice. 20-inch smallmouth have no problem taking down a 5 or 6-inch paddle tail just like this. I did wish Z-Man did come out with a 6-inch model. I feel that would be just probably more ideal if you are targeting hog smallmouths. But the 7-incher, you're kind of pushing a bit too long of a length, I feel, and the bigger the paddle tail, the heavier the head you're going to need to use in order to get that adequate tail kick and action out of the bigger bait. So for the Diezel Minnow and the 5-inch length, 2 colorways I only use, smelt and then disco cisco. There are 3 head types that I found to work very well with this, and here they are. Actually 2 head types. One is obviously 2 different sizes, but the first one is the Freedom Tackle Hydra head. This here is their swinging head offered for swim baits. This concoction here, I came about on this one back in 2016, 2017. To date, it's caught some of my largest smallmouths to date, fish pushing up to 7 pounds. So on our inland fisheries, a fish of that size is a true unicorn, and they do not come around annually like you might think they could or should, but they just don't. So the swinging head option is awesome. It truly maximizes on the tail kick, the action of the bait. You can fish this at any retrieve speed, and with that moving head, it swings, so it's always going to vibrate on the retrieve. That's a huge benefit of it. The way I have it rigged up is a 4/0 EWG by Trocar, and keep it texposed. The hook slot right here keeps it weedless, so it's not going to catch on any crap that might be floating somewhere throughout the water column. Texposed, Texas rig just like this, and the way you rig it up, it's just screw on and twist. Well, this one does not want to come off because it's been on there for so long, but there you go. The next head is by far the most simplistic and probably best hooking method that I found. Obviously, when you're making long casts into the open water, the more exposed of a hook that you have, the better I feel it is. You're not going to really miss out on bites, and you're not going to swing and miss as frequently either. So the next head, all-time favorite of mine, is the Trocar boxing glove jig. I have it in 2 sizes here. So this here, the white head, is a 1/2 ouncer. And then this here, the metallic head, is a 3/4 ouncer. So what I like about these jigs, the very wide hook gap, super important I feel. Very strong hooks too, so if a fish hits it from far out, you're not going to swing and miss as you would otherwise, maybe with the treble hook or with the texposed hooking method that I just showed. So throughout the year, this year on these 5-inch Diezel Minnows, we caught a lot of trophy smallmouth. I personally caught fish up to 21.5 inches from the summer months into the early fall months. The way I fish these baits, you do need specialized gear and equipment. The rod of choice of mine is a 7-foot 10-inch St. Croix Victory, the SB Ranger. The Victory SB Ranger is a 7-foot 10-inch rod. It does have an EVA grip, so once you're making your long cast, you can tuck that rod handle into your shoulder. It's not going to hurt. That's awesome concept to have for these open water style bait casting rods. It is a heavy action, but due to the length, it does have a lot of flex, and that rod in particular excels with Alabama rigs as well as big swim baits. Just like these. And what I have it paired up with is a size 300 casting reel. You want some extra line capacity in order to be able to make longer casts and yet be able to have a lot of line on that reel. And for my line, I just run straight fluorocarbon 17-pound Sunline FC Sniper, and that's my setup right here for fishing these open water smallmouths. These baits are awesome. You can launch them far. Fishing them is very easy. Obviously, the challenge with fishing for these unicorn fish out in the open water, you just have to know the movements and timing of the Cisco schools, where they're at, where their whereabouts are at. They roam, so you also have to roam also. And once you start fishing this way, you're going to be fishing areas of the lake that you just never thought had any concentrations of fish. But once you can find the food source, chances are the smallmouth, they'll be following those bait fish schools very closely and intently, and they're not going to be too far off. So if you're selecting for specimens, you'll want to go with the 5-inch Diezel Minnows. Whereas if you want to catch a whole lot of fish and you don't know what you're going to catch, which makes fishing this way so awesome, you're going to want the 4-inch Diezel Minnow. These things are fish catchers for smallmouths, walleyes, pike, even muskies too. Definitely add a bunch of Diezel Minnows into your arsenal. Your chances are you have a lot of success like my boat has with these. You're not going to want to use any other paddletail brand out there.